Well, hello. Welcome back to another live stream session here from the Next Level Studio, Cliff Ravenscraft, with another Ask Me Anything. How may I serve you live stream session? Real quick announcement as I wait to see if anybody joins me via Zoom, which, by the way, you can do that over at cliffravenscraft.com/join. I do want to let you know that there are now only 47 seats available for the Free the Dream workshop coming up on Friday and Saturday, August 29th and 30th, here in Hebron, Kentucky. It is an in-person live workshop that my wife and I are going to host. If you have been following us for quite some time, chances are you've heard us talk about the Free the Dream conference that we did in 2018 and 2019. We've decided that we are ready to bring back live events, but we want to do them in a more intimate setting, and we are limiting this to no more than 50 attendees. We just started speaking about it this week, and if you are interested, you can reserve one of the sacred 50 seats at freethedreamworkshop.com. That's the only message I have for you here. The rest of this live stream, I have no slides. I have no agenda. I have no presentation. I have no desire to perform other than to enter into a conversation with anybody who might come across my path today. That's what I've been doing with these. In fact, I've got a little screen I'm going to pull up here in just a moment as soon as I can figure out how to do this in Ecamm very easily. There we go. I am just going to turn this on. It says, "Why am I just sitting here?" I'm waiting for the next divine appointment. If you're navigating a life decision, building something meaningful, or simply seeking a conversation that goes deeper, you're invited to join me. Again, it's cliffravenscraft.com/join. I have a Zoom room set up here, ready to interact with anybody who decides to come into the Zoom room, turn on the camera, and let's chat. You can do that by desktop or mobile device. The link to join the Zoom call, which is open right now, operators are standing by, or at least this operator right here is standing by. cliffravenscraft.com/join, and I'm just going to sit here in silence for potentially the next 90 minutes by myself unless you or someone else decides to join me. No pressure to do so, by the way. Don't pop into the Zoom call because you feel bad that Cliff's sitting here all by himself. It's not what this is all about. I'm just waiting for the next person who feels the pull to join me. Ask me anything. Let's just have a conversation. Looks like we may have our first guest here. Turn this off. Jess, I see that you have joined here on Zoom. If you are interested in having a conversation, feel free to turn on your camera and just give me a thumbs up, and just like thumbs up on the thing and say, "Yep, I'm interested in joining you for a conversation," and I'll pull you up here on the live stream. No pressure to do so, by the way. If you are not looking to have a conversation with me, all you need to do, just type into the little chat inside of Zoom that says, "I'm just here to listen in," and that's perfectly fine as well. There's no pressure for anything. Okay. Okay, not camera ready, but can talk without video. Okay, so let me try this and see if I can. Can I put a little thing up here? Nope, I can't do that. Let's see here. So let me just pull up a little text. Jess, if you can unmute yourself, and we should have audio from you. Hi, how are you?
Sure. Hi, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I have never been better. It gets better every minute of the day. And let's see here. Do you mind if I put your name on my screen just so they know who I'm talking to?
Go for it. That'd be great.
Okay. So audio from Jess, Lindgren,
That's me.
via Zoom. All right, let's add this on here.
Yeah, too bad you can't get my picture to show up because I do have that attached to my Zoom account, but you
No
know,
worries. It is what it is.
it
Jess,
is what it is. We're here. Hi.
How can I be of service to you today?
I'm not 100% sure. I have been following your work for quite some time. I used to read, refresh my memory. Did you used to contribute to like entrepreneur.com like 15 years ago?
I did not contribute to it as a writer, but there were a couple of people that were in my community who often worked very hard to tell various bits and pieces of my story. So there were many articles
Okay.
written about the things that I was doing back then. So is that how you first discovered the work that I was doing?
I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, it's been about 15 years and my uh career has gone in a very different direction than I was anticipating it doing, but I feel like I would have seen you on like I used to use Google Reader back in the day.
Oh
So I
yeah.
don't know what yeah, rest in peace, Google Reader. Still have my Feedly RSS feed. Love an RSS moment. But I feel like I used to see you on like Life Hacker or something. Like you were really active somewhere on some platform because like your name also really stands out. Not a lot of people with the last name Ravenscraft. And then yeah, just have lately followed you over the years. I also work with a gentleman who we've had you on his podcast a couple times. And yeah, just wanted to see what your live stream was about, really, more than anything.
Oh, cool. Well, so I'll share with you what this live stream is all about. Over the past, well, actually, since I started my business in January 2008, but more so in the past 7.5 years, I have focused primarily on being of service and value to people through coaching conversations, or just conversations where somebody needs support or encouragement or clarity on the next step, some feedback, brainstorming ideas, those kinds of things. And the interesting thing is the number of times that I have had conversations with people where I'm like, after having that coaching conversation, which was confidential and private between the two of us, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know so many people who would benefit if they actually were able to listen to the recording of that conversation. And I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of recordings of those conversations that have only ever been shared with the person I had the conversation with. Rightfully so.
Privately, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. It was exactly what was discussed. It was the premise for our conversations. Meanwhile, I happen to be a content creator. I have, since December 2005, I have more than 50 different podcast shows. I have over 4,800 podcast episodes. So I'm the type of person who likes to take anything that I experience, anything that I come across that I find of value, anything that I've learned as a lesson myself, anything I'm reading in a book that's just challenging the way that I'm perceiving the world in a profound way. I like to share that. And so I've always had this desire to share these conversations. And I may have had a limiting belief on whether or not such conversations might get to the level of what I'm talking about in a live stream public session.
Mhm.
But I've been proven wrong about that back in the COVID days. There was TalkShoe where we were all globally locked into our homes. And I used to host these rooms on TalkShoe called How May I Serve You? Ask Me Anything.
Mhm.
And people would come in, and some of the questions were very deep. And of course, I asked each person, I said, are you aware that Clubhouse is recording this? Are you aware that the replays are available? And also, are you okay with the fact that I may choose to take the audio recording of our conversation and put it in a podcast episode? It definitely reduced the number of people willing to come up and have a conversation with me on Clubhouse when I started doing that, but it didn't eliminate it. And so during Clubhouse, I had these conversations and I was sharing them as podcast episodes. But eventually, when Clubhouse kind of faded into non-existence, although it still
Mhm.
exists in some form today, it kind of faded out of my conscious awareness as well. I went all in on all the other things I was doing. But about 2.5 to 3 weeks ago, I was out for a walk with my wife and I said, you know what? I have a desire to experience what I experienced back in the Clubhouse days. And I think that I might be able to create a version that is even better using Ecamm Live, streaming out to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and hosting a live Zoom call at the same time, given the functionality that Ecamm has to integrate a Zoom call. And I can even drag and drop somebody's video overlaid on top of mine from any Zoom participant. I think I'm going to test this out. I tested it out, and so far there have been 14 podcast episodes of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show that have come out of these live streams.
I love it. That's great.
And that's what this is about.
Very cool. Yeah, just yeah, Clubhouse really had a moment. They really had an opportunity to do something really special and just kind of I don't know what the impetus was for them changing because I've looked in on the app a couple of times over the last couple of years too, and it's just it used to be exactly what you said, just a live forum where you could talk about whatever, you could direct the purpose of a room, you could join conversations other people were having. I don't fully understand what it is today, but it's certainly not what it was back in 2020, 2021. And it was really cool. So I really love seeing you taking that idea of that format and kind of making it your own.
Yeah. I have some ideas of why things happened the way they did. And I think that the pandemic and sheltering in place globally as a phenomenon both caused the greatest benefit that Clubhouse could possibly ever experience and its greatest downfall. And
Hmm.
that is the fact that, well, first and foremost, it was a startup company and it had investors who are financially looking for multiple times return on investment from said platform. They
Hmm.
it opened up where there was no monetization structure whatsoever for how they would monetize it. It was early stage. It was opened before the pandemic. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And before they had a business model in place, they now had millions
Hmm.
of people on the platform. And they were going to their investors and saying, look at all of these people. And the investors were getting super excited. We're on to something more. Man, we struck gold. It's the gold rush, if you will. And then what happened was they go and they need more servers. I think there was Elon Musk was on one
Mm.
room and they recognize, oh, wow, we have a limit of 5,000 people per room. And so they found a way to syndicate Elon Musk's live room by hosting it in multiple rooms with up to 5,000 people in each of those rooms. And so as they were building out, trying to keep up with the constant, consistent demand, and also it's like every week the number of active users and the amount of time spent every day exponentially increasing over and over and over again. And then eventually what happened was it started to plateau, and thankfully we started to be allowed to leave our homes once again, entering into a little bit of a normal flow of life. And as that started to happen, people began a mass exodus when it came to the amount of time spent per day on the app, and then also the amount of days per week on the app, and then ultimately the amount of time per month on the app. And it kind of became a ghost town. So that's and that, of course, to investors is not good. And so what happened is the investors are like, you've got to do something to maintain this. I mean, we've invested all this money, we've purchased all this other stuff, you've got all this bandwidth, you've got all this capability, you've got to do something. And also you need a business model. That was a big pressure for them. And there was still no foreseeable business model that where they would generate income, but they did focus on how are we going to get people to come back now that they're not forced into conversations on a daily basis with people from within their homes. What can we do? And so they began toying around with different kind of formats and features and functionalities within the app. And they didn't recognize that the people who really love this opportunity to have an audio first platform, they didn't necessarily care about video. They didn't care about, all these other features and functionalities that they were trying to build in to draw other people back in. They kind of lost the core of who they were. Other people like Spotify and LinkedIn and Twitter, they all were creating their own versions of audio only rooms, which all of those eventually kind of just faded away as well. But Clubhouse went and tried to hold on to everything that they had and tried to bring those people back. Meanwhile, another thing was happening simultaneously. And that was what happens with a lot of social media platforms. You get people who have some sort of agenda of, oh my gosh, here's a new system that is available. It's got the attention of a lot of people. And because of the way that it's set up, I can gamify this to grow my following. I can gamify this to get the attention of as many people as possible. I can gamify this to influence, and I'm going to say the word that comes to my mind, manipulate what people are thinking about and what they choose to do through hosting these live rooms. And as a result of that, there were a ton of rooms that were nothing more than how to get rich, how to pitch us your thing. We're going to invest in you. We're going to do this. And by the way, here's our quick get rich quick scheme. And this became the number one rooms on the platform were how we can make you rich. And all you have to do is invest your money over here kind of things. And so that those people started to gamify all of that and to try to keep those people from using that mechanism and the way they were set up. They started to take away. It's like, okay, we're going to just take away followers. Nobody has followers anymore. Nobody has this. Nobody has this. And they started to strip away the things that were incredibly valuable. So now every time somebody logged in, not only is the world not there anymore, they're out living their lives outside of their homes. There's many less people who are in your community now showing up on a consistent basis. And also, the hallway is just filled with all of this junk that nobody cares about. And it just slowly degraded over time. So those are just a few things of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's really unfortunate that they had such a unique, captive audience, for lack of a better term, and just kind of It's always frustrating when people have a great product and then bow to investor whims. I mean, I know you have to some extent. Like they're the people paying the bills, they're the people giving you the funding to do the thing, but I don't know. I just felt like it was so special in that moment, and it was something that could have very easily continued in the format that it was.
Yeah, and I wonder sometimes if why these platforms don't allow to say, "Hey, we're going to turn this into a freemium platform," which means that there's
Mhm.
going to be all of these ads. Every time you enter a room, you're going to listen to a 30-second ad. Every time you enter another room, you're going to listen to a 30-second ad. Every time you do listen to a replay, you're going to listen to a 30-second ad. And you get all of these ads. I love the idea of that. And then people who are really enjoying the platform, they can pay $5.99 a month or $9.99 a month to
Right.
access this thing and never hear one of those ads. Something
And
like
access
that.
it as it is instead of fundamentally changing what it was.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
I'm a YouTube premium subscriber and have been ever since they gave us the option to watch YouTube with no ads. I haven't seen an ad on YouTube in a decade.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for my favorite podcasters to give me ad-free version. Although it one of the things I do love about an audio podcast is that my app of choice easily has that plus 30 button, 30-second button, and so you can skip those pretty
Exactly. I
easily.
know. I have a handful of ad-free shows that I like to listen to that are just long form, don't bother with ads at all, and just rely on things more like a Patreon or a Substack, direct money, like giving the audience the opportunity to express their interest by subscribing and then perhaps getting bonus content. And then yeah, anything that has ads, I use Overcast to listen to podcasts. So
Mm-hmm.
you can set up custom how far do you want your buttons to scroll back and forward. So it's 30 seconds ahead and then 7 seconds behind. If I happen to cut into the audio of
Yep.
what I want, then I can just kind of a little bit, just a little bit back.
Absolutely. And it's so important with some of these more popular shows today that I don't necessarily subscribe to, but occasionally they have a guest and I'm like, okay, I'd love to hear a conversation between this guest and this host. That sounds fascinating. So I'll go and look up their podcast, resubscribe to it and click play. And I use Pocket Casts for my app of choice. And one of the things that I love it is if you are subscribed to a podcast, one of these, Joe Rogan's, Lex Friedman, Tim Ferriss, or any of those other people that do these incredibly long format shows, but they have like 3.5 to 5.5 minutes of ads at the front of the show. They typically have the same amount of ad spot at the front of the show, and in Pocket Cast, there's a setting that you can actually set to start at X number of seconds or minutes and seconds into the episode for each podcast. So it
That's
automatically you click play on a new episode and it starts theoretically right after the ads.
that's a neat feature. I like that. Yeah. I found Apple Podcasts iOS 17 that update really killed my download numbers. My goodness. And Yeah, just a little too, I mean, it works. So it's not really a huge problem for it to be bare bones and not customizable. But yeah, I do like the opportunity to customize.
Absolutely. By the way, Paul, I see that you've joined the Zoom room. I'll be with you in just a moment. Give me a thumbs up if you want to join me here on the. Yep, great. That's awesome. So, just real quick, tell me a little bit about you. What do you do? You said that your career went in a different direction than you anticipated. So, what is it that you do today?
What I do today is I am a bit of a multi-hyphenate myself. I find myself I'm a personal and executive assistant. So that piece of my career has gone the way I had expected it to. However, in 2013, the people that I was working for at the time were just destroying my mental health, physical health, all of it, my confidence in my abilities. And I decided that no job was better than that job. And I wrote an email to everybody I knew, just said, hey, everybody, life update. I'm quitting my job. I'm starting my own company. I am a freelance personal and executive assistant, and here's what that means. Do you need somebody to sit at reception at your office for a week? I'm your gal. Do you need somebody to plan your holiday party for your company? I'm your gal. Do you need somebody to manage your email inbox? I'm your gal. And if there's something on this list, this is not exhaustive, but if there's something on this list that's not on the list that you need help with, if I can't help you with it, I guarantee I know somebody who does. And 15 minutes after I sent that email, a friend reached out and said, "We have a job for you." And it turns out that I ended up working with, and still to this day work with, a gentleman that you probably know quite well. His name is Pat Flynn.
Oh yeah. So is this the Jess
Yeah,
that sends me my emails from Pat?
this is the Jess that sends you the emails from Pat, and I have done for over a decade. So I've been working with Pat since 2014.
So Jess, can I tell you something? I know how you know my name.
Yes.
You
Well,
know,
from that,
because Pat and I have been in a weekly mastermind group since October 2010, right?
yes, but I
Okay.
knew her name before that.
Oh,
Like
really?
when
Okay.
that's why I was trying to dig into it. I was like, there's something, either it was entrepreneur you used to contribute article, and again, like 2009, like old, old, old. So like
Yeah.
when you said you've had this podcast since 2005, I'm like, yes, I'm familiar.
Okay.
But like all these people, so like you, Seth Godin, uh, Tim Ferriss, who is the gentleman? Oh, he had a really great TED Talk. And he unfortunately passed away climbing a mountain. Scott something.
Hmm.
Do you
I
remember this
I
gentleman?
I remember the story. I did not know him personally, but yeah, I do remember
Oh
the
my
story.
gosh, he had a wonderful community and
Yep.
like, yeah, just so I was tangentially aware, and
Okay.
all the reading that I had been doing, especially Seth Godin, especially again, Google Reader used to put everything nice, and this is pre everything is freemium, everything has a million ads on it. So you could just put everything into Google Reader, read it like an email, and you would just get everything delivered to one spot, and just did a lot of learning. And so doing all of that reading is what pushed me. I was just like, all right, if these jokers that I'm working for, because I am also a big proponent of being careful with the language choices that we make. I was working for these people who were destroying me mentally, physically, psychologically. And I was like, all right, if these jokers can make 50 million, I can make $50,000. I can do this. And so, like I said, literally quit my job. And the first client I landed after quitting my job was working with Pat.
Well, that's an incredible story. First of all, I love the initiative that you took to just put that out there. I love the story of sending it out to, you said, an email list. Is that right?
Not even an email list. Like
Just
I
in
just went
social.
through all of my contacts in my Gmail account, and I was like, if I emailed you once, I just BCC'd everybody. I was like, hey, listen, quitting my job, throwing a party, you should come. And here's what I'm doing instead of being in an office. And it just, one client that was a one-off project turned into 5 hours a week, turned to 10, turned to 20, turned to 60. Then I hired help. And now it's back down to a very manageable. Uh, Pat and I have been working together for 12 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know. It's so hilarious because I had no idea that this was the Jess that I was talking to when we started this
This is the
conversation.
Jess you've been talking with, yes.
That's
And so,
amazing.
like I said just a moment ago, I don't work for Pat, I
Hmm.
work with Pat. I
Yeah,
am very, that was one of my non-negotiables in finding a new role was I don't want to work for anyone ever again. I want to work with you. I want the person that I work with to understand, respect, and appreciate that they can't do what they do without the work that we do together.
yeah, that's
And
amazing.
and of all the people in the world who understand, appreciate, and recognize that, Pat is like the one.
Yeah, he's
One of many that are out there, but like, what are the odds?
it. Well, the odds are in your favor because life is in your favor. I love that. I love the story, and I even am more like I'm so much more thankful that you didn't have the mailing list and that wasn't the part of the story that I was inventing in my mind as I was listening. But I love the fact that it was like I just decided to create a job description of who I am, what I'm offering, and I'm going to literally BCC everybody that I've ever emailed in the past however many years,
Yep.
and that's how it landed. And there's so much about your story that is exactly the same reason why someone like Pat Flynn and anyone else that is recognizable, that is seemingly successful, what you did there is so much the element that leads to success. And that is having a lot of clarity about what I don't want. A lot of times it comes out of pain and frustration and external circumstances that are unexpected, undesirable, or inconvenient. I like to use those phrases. They tend
I like
to
inconvenient. It was definitely inconvenient. Quitting my job with no plan was inconvenient.
Exactly. But then not only knowing what you don't want, but having clarity about what you do desire and having that picture in your mind. So many people have this clarity about what they don't want in their life, but they are so focused on what they don't want, and they're just open to anything and everything that could be anything different than that, but they don't actually have a picture of it. They would not be able to put into words into an email to send to people what their vision of what they want to create next is. And see, that's the key. That's the part that you tapped into, that is the same thing that practically everyone else who has succeeded has tapped into, is having clarity about what your future is, what you desire. You may not know how it's going to happen, you may not know all the details, but you had clarity. I want to work for myself, I want to create this, and I want to do these kind of things. This is the value that I see myself bringing to people. And boom, I'm ready to tell the world. And I will tell the world in any way and every way that is absolutely possible to me. I'll just follow the next logical step as it becomes available. You didn't wait till you had the whole roadmap. You just took that first initial step, and it led to success right out of the gate, which isn't always a part of people's journey and story, but I love that it's a part of yours.
It's led me down some really unexpected roads and honestly, the best road. It's very rewarding work. It's very fulfilling work. That was also a big part of it, was I was just like, I'm tired of watching people be, I like to tell people, as an executive assistant, I am part of the C-suite. I absolutely am. I get to sit in closed door meetings. My executives would always like, we had a suite in the building. So like I had a desk at the time that was bigger than my studio apartment I was living in. And that is not a joke. And then that was just my desk area was larger than my studio apartment. And then my executives had offices at opposite ends of that corner of the building and just all in one little suite. And like literally, they would just take meetings with their direct reports. They would take meetings with external stakeholders and important decision makers. I have seen people run businesses well. I've also really seen people run their businesses poorly. And it just, I no longer wanted to be party to people treating their employees poorly, making decisions behind the scenes that did not work with my own moral compass. Like that just was no longer acceptable to me. And another part of that clarity was I wanted to be impacting people's lives in a positive way. And literally, we help people run their businesses every day. And I don't know how much, I mean, you personally have been in the mastermind with Pat, so you know.
Yep.
But we've made a hard pivot into the Pokemon space. And my number one fan now is my 13-year-old nephew who thinks that I'm just the bee's knees because I work with this really famous YouTuber. And I'm just like, well, it's just so fun and so impactful. And people, I know that I did a great job because people come to the event and have a great time.
That's amazing. I love it. Jess, I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to have this dialogue with you, and I hope our paths cross so many more times. I just want to say how much I appreciate you joining the Zoom call when you saw me on the live stream, and you're welcome back anytime. And if I can ever be of any support and encouragement to you, feel free to let me know. And is there anything that you want to share? Do you want anybody to know about any offerings that you have, or anything that you want to spread the word about?
Sure, that'd be great. I am 79 episodes into my own podcast, Ask an Assistant, where It's primarily geared toward executive assistants, but I know that a lot of people who are solopreneurs, small business owners, a lot of times you are your own executive assistant. Like you are doing a lot of the things that if you had the time, the budget, the resources, you would hire someone to do these things. I do find that the advice that I give and the questions that I answer, while they are geared toward executive assistants, they're definitely things that are beneficial to people who are solopreneurs, small business owners. So I would love to hear from anybody. I would love to answer anybody's questions. I would love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. However, you DM me about an MLM, I will block you so fast it will make your head spin. So don't do it. But yeah, just listen to the podcast, askanassistant.com. You know where to find podcasts. It's fun. Give it a
I
listen. You.
I love it, and I will do my best. I will include our conversation in a future episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show, and simply because of the success principle of not only knowing what you don't want, but knowing and having clarity about what you do want to such a degree that you could put it in an email and send it to people and say, I don't know how this is going to work out, but here's what I'm looking for. Hit reply and let me know. I love that. But also, I
Yeah.
will try to remember to put askanassistant.com link in the show notes, as well as a link to your LinkedIn profile. And if we're not already first connections, do me a favor, Jess, and send me a connection request, and I will make sure that we're connected there. And I'll put that link in there as well.
Excellent. Will do. And if you'd ever, I will certainly try to come back at a time where I'm more camera ready because I would love to drill into some of the finer points of that if you're interested or revisit the conversation.
Anytime. I'm here quite frequently. As you saw on the page where you click the button to join, there's a schedule there. So
Awesome.
I try to show up right now, currently in the season of life, at least 90 minutes every day that I'm available. So
Love
anytime,
it.
you're
Thanks for your
welcome.
time, Cliff. Thanks for your time, Cliff. And I'm guessing, Paul, you're up.
All right. Blessings. Talk to you soon. All right, Paul, let me get you up here on screen. Oh, wait, before I get you on screen, let me go in. Oh, there you go. You are the screen. Wave to everybody. How's that? Let's see if I can fix that. Oh, we'll put Paul. Paul's going to be there. He's going to interview me. How's that? Let's do it this way. How can I change that? I can change that, and then I can put Paul here. There we go.
That's more appropriate.
Well, I don't know about appropriate, but it's more in alignment with what I had in mind. Paul, how can I be of service to you today?
Well, let me just say that I've followed you for a long time as well, and I've a lot of your career, your health journey, et cetera. I also happen to be a Kentuckian as well, and so I'm glad I get a chance to jump in and have the conversation with you today. I have a real specific question for you, which is, um, we have started a group of us have started a new startup company, and I'm currently the CEO of that new startup company, and so I feel like a lot of the times I've been sort of more operational in the background and not in the front. And I feel like it's probably time for me to step up a little bit and have a little bit more of a personal brand. And so my question to you, and I figure this is a great opportunity to ask, if you were starting over and you didn't have the brand that you have today and you were going to do it all over again, what are some of the initial steps you think I should be taking as I sort of step out? I have a bit of a following on LinkedIn, but I don't do a lot of posting. Um, and I enjoy marketing and business and obviously the technical side of things as well. And I love what you're doing here. And so I think this kind of stuff is exciting where you can just be of service to other people. So that's my question for you.
So the first thing that immediately comes to my mind is I would look for opportunities to be of service to people. That that really is the crux of how I've always built everything that I've ever built. I'm always looking what are the avenues and environments where I can allow people to discover me, and or once they've discovered me, interact with me in such a way that I can be of service. And I mean real true service, not like let me see if I can't see you as a number and in some sort of sales funnel where I don't like that. There are times when my personal brand has gone in such a way and I get some recognition somewhere and there's somebody, whatever, I get some exposure. and it causes large numbers of people to reach out to me in such a way that it's not possible for me to have that level of service to give to everyone that is reaching out to me at this current time. My friend and mentor, Michael Hyatt, introduced me to a quote he heard from Andy Stanley that helped me in those seasons. It's, I always try to do for some what I wish I could do for everyone. And I have always done that. I've always taken a random sampling of people that is out of the masses who might be currently reaching out to me, and I serve them at the level that I would serve my highest paid client that's ever paid me the highest amount of money. There is no difference in the level of service. And so that first and foremost is the first thing that comes to my mind, as if I were going to start a whole brand new brand and I had no brand recognition, no personal recognition whatsoever. That's the first thing that comes. The next thing is my number one marketing message. If you've been following me long enough, you may have heard me say it a couple of times. And I don't know how to actually make it a marketing concept, because I think once you actually turn it into a strategy, it loses all of its effectiveness. But the marketing strategy is this: be someone and or do something worth talking about. Because if we think about building a brand where you want people to discover you, how do people discover you? Well, it's you actually show up in their life in some way, whether it's through the content that you create, or, and a majority of the people who know about me today did not learn about me because of actually the content that I directly created that attracted them. The majority, and I did have a handful of podcasts that had over 100,000 podcast subscribers, but those are not the people who are following me for my personal brand today. So for example, my wife and I did a podcast called the Twilight Saga Podcast, which you can find at twilightsagapodcast.com if anybody's interested. All of the episodes are there. Hundreds of thousands of subscribers had listened to that, but 93% of those people never going to be a client in the field that my personal brand is. So yes, I've done some things that have attracted the attention of a couple of people around shared passion projects and information that I've put out into the world. But a majority of the people who first heard about me from someone else. So Jess, who was just on here earlier, she had mentioned that even before she started working with Pat Flynn, she thinks she read about me from an article or contributions that I did on entrepreneurial.com or some other publication where I was showing up in her RSS reader. The reality is that I have, until ChatGPT came around, from 2005 until 2023, I wrote almost nothing. I have over 55 podcast shows, over 4,800 podcast episodes, and a majority of my show notes for those earlier podcast episodes said, "I hate writing show notes." And that was what was written. Now, I did blog for 10 years before I started podcasting, but once I discovered I could talk with my voice and publish content to the world and gain people's attention, that's primarily where I was. But why do I share all of that? Because Jess thinks she saw my name showing up frequently in various written content outlets that she was subscribed to via her Google Reader. And I did show up there, but not because I did any of that writing. My audience was consistently writing about me. Michael Hyatt consistently blogged about me. All these other people consistently wrote and or blogged about what I was doing. Why? For two reasons. One, there was something about this guy, Cliff Ravenscraft. There was something, the way that he shows up, the way that he engages with people. You can just sense that his heart is not purely into this for some sort of transaction. He genuinely cares about people. And that's the reason why so this starts to lean into the do something worth talking about. So the first thing that I did worth talking about was I created a podcast that obviously got the attention of a lot of people right out of the gate. But that's one thing. But then creating 7 to 15 podcast episodes a week, every single week, as a hobby outside of my insurance career. And I'm doing it not so that I could actually build a business, but because I love it and I love serving people through the content. And it's all about serving people. It was all about the community, 100%. But 7 to 15 hours of published podcast content, all of which, by the way, at least an hour, usually. That's something that most people wouldn't do if it was their full-time job, let alone a hobby on the side. And that was worth talking about. So lots of it's like, have you heard of this guy named Clifford? He's doing this as a hobby and he publishes this much content. And that got a lot of attention. People started talking about it. Then I had this crazy idea. Actually, my wife I had the idea and the dream. I didn't talk about it publicly to too many people, but my wife eventually, September 2007, says, you're going to quit your day job and we're going to go do this podcast thing full time. And this was the year that all of the professional podcasters, the people who started the entire thing, the people who had actually made money from podcasting and then realized, I think we've hit a bubble. I think we've got a plateau. This is as big as it's going to get. In fact, it's dead. Podcasting is dead. That's when I went in and put my 90-day notice in and said, I am going to be the podcast answer man. That's my career. I'm pushing all of my chips into this. I have no idea how this is all going to work out. And that was doing something worth talking about. And people talked about it. You know what I learned? People love a good success story, and they also can't avoid watching a train wreck. And I was guaranteed to give them one of those two if they followed me. And so that was this doing something worth talking about. And I think it loses its effectiveness as a marketing strategy when you're trying to be someone so that people will talk about you. When you try to do something so that people will talk about you. And I'll admit there have been a number of times where it's like, what can I do now that's outlandish that will get people's attention again? And every time I've ever done that, I've burned out because I did it for, not that there wasn't good motivations behind it, but it was the motivation of the ego and the desire for the transaction was just too out of alignment with who I am as an authentic self, and it just burned me out. However, to your question, what would I do if I was to start all over again? Number one, I'd look for as many environments to serve as I can. I would be someone worth talking about, which I know that I am, and I will do things worth talking about, which I would try to find things that just light me up, that make me excited, and that are a little bit crazy. And I might push it to the edge. Like, for example, currently I'm doing live streams, a minimum of 90 minutes, currently 5 days a week. Who does this? And a little craziness is, I don't know if you've seen it, but occasionally I'll get on here and I put a little graphic up and says, what am I doing? Why am I just sitting here? And there's a little blurb that explains why I'm not talking. I'm on a live stream. Nobody's interacting with me, and I'm not going to talk until somebody joins me on a Zoom call. That's a little weird.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that captures people's attention. Now, am I doing that for that edge? No, I'm doing it because I don't want to sit here and talk when there's nobody to talk to. I'm not here to try to let me share with you 5 easy steps to fill in the blank, blah, blah, blah. That will entertain you. That'll keep you from scrolling. I will be here. I'll be top of mind, but it's not what I want. My soul wants to engage in conversation. And so I'm willing to look less credible. I'm willing to look awkward. I'm willing to, because this is what I want to do. It just so happens that awkwardness, that weirdness also is something worth talking about. And some people will come to these live streams, not because they follow me and they see me pop up, but people will start saying, have you seen what Cliff Ravenscraft? I watched 17 minutes. I couldn't stand anymore. He didn't say a word. And people will start coming just to see that. So those are the kinds of things that come to my mind.
That makes sense. So if I was to repeat that back to you, so because I am probably maybe similar to you. I haven't looked for the limelight or tried to be out front and so, but I do feel like it's important that I'm in a place where I can share now. Like I can give back, and that's something I genuinely want to do. So if I was to repeat back to you, it's like figure out something that is unique and interesting that I can give value for, real value for, help people, and then I'm guessing find a specific niche. Is that like a LinkedIn or a YouTube or something, and then show up there consistently offering help, and then try to find something unique or interesting about what I'm doing there that would get people talking potentially.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up that nuance, and I'll even go in a little bit deeper. So for me, I was very much drawn to podcasting. As you can tell, I like to talk. That's no secret to anyone.
Yeah.
So and by the way, you could replace podcasting with a blog. You could replace podcasting with an email newsletter, all of this stuff. So it really doesn't matter to me what the content outlet is. But what you just brought out in the nuance in this conversation is, yes, I would choose a niche passion for which I have a lot of value to add, and then I would create something unique to that particular thing. So let me share with you. When I first started podcasting, I didn't think anybody would want to hear me. So I created a podcast called Generally Speaking. In the first podcast episode, I explained to people I got one podcast. It's called Generally Speaking with Cliff Ravenscraft. And the reason why I call it that is because I'm going to just generally speak about the topic. I'm going to talk about 3 different topics, either technology, the television show Lost, or my faith. All right. These are the 3 things. And here's what I know. There are people who want to hear me talk about Lost, but not the other 2, or vice versa, or a combination of 2, but not the third. Okay. And this is great. It's one podcast, and every single episode is going to have a title for the episode. And it'll say faith, then the title, or Lost, title, or technology in the title. So subscribe to my podcast. And if you decide which of the 3 topics you're interested in, and delete all of the episodes that start with the keyword you're not interested in. That I did all of that, and then I started the first episode talking about Lost. And here's what I learned. Number 1, people are interested in hearing what I had to say. That was awesome. Over 500 subscribers to my first download, or for my first episode. And a number of people said, Cliff, I love the way you talk about the television show Lost. I heard about you because you were featured as an audio submission for the Lost podcast with Ryan and Jen. And that's why they talked about the fact that you did this. That's why I'm here. I have no interest in technology, and I have no interest in hearing about your faith. But if you did a Lost podcast, I would listen. So episode 2 of that podcast was, hello and welcome to the weekly Lost edition of the Generally Speaking podcast network. I knew with episode 2 that I was going to create a podcast devoted to Lost, which I already have now. This is now a Lost podcast and only a Lost podcast. I knew that I was instantly going to launch a podcast where I talk about technology. And I actually created one called Business Tech Weekly. I had another podcast called Social Media Serenity. 2 very different topics on technology. I also created another podcast, Help, I Got a Mac, because I was a Windows user all the way back to the very first MS-DOS, even before Windows 3.0. And I started with BASIC. But anyway, I went down the Windows path. And then I got myself a Mac computer back in the, PC versus Mac funny commercial days. And I loved it, except for it was such a different way of perceiving a file system and an operating system. I was running into all sorts of problems. And I literally launched a podcast explaining, here's the latest thing that I am absolutely have no clue how to fix or how to solve. And people would actually email me back. And then I got a guy who was working at the Apple Store as a genius at the Apple Store, and he became my co-host. We deleted all the ones where I talked about how much I hate this Mac, and we started over from scratch with I love this Mac, and here's how you can do all of these things. And we went on for years with that. So I had Help, I Got a Mac, Business Tech Weekly, Social Media Serenity. Then I created a podcast that at the time was called About the Church. I created another podcast called The Almost Daily Devotional. Put both of those together eventually into one podcast feed, and it became eventually the Encouraging Others Through Christ podcast, and has been a documentation of my journey, my faith journey from the time I was a kid all the way to where I am today, which is really weird and awkward for a lot of people who've been following me for years, but that's a whole nother thing. And so there was law, and then technology. So technology, faith, and that. But along the way, there were other interests. So I had my own online business. I hired a virtual assistant, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is changing everything. This makes everything so much easier. Everybody should know about having a virtual assistant. And so I was talking about it each week in my podcast called Podcast Answer Man. And eventually I'm like, I'm so excited about talking about what I'm learning about having a virtual assistant. And I can't keep talking about it in a podcast called Podcast Answer Man. So I launched another niche podcast called the Virtual Assistant Podcast over at virtualassistantpodcast.com. 38 episodes in 2012. They're all still there. Hundreds of people will discover that podcast this month, July of 2025. And out of those hundreds, about 60 or 70 of those people will listen to all 38 episodes. And by the end of the 38 episodes, they will come over to my Cliff Ravenscraft Show podcast. And of those, let's just say 30 people, about 1 to 5 of them will become clients within the next 12 months. So to answer your question, yes, find a niche, but don't limit yourself to just one. Of course, keep in mind how much time, effort, and energy you have available, but certainly find a niche and serve it well and serve it consistently and serve it with all you have. But for me, I'm a multi-passionate person, so I picked lots of niches.
I know you have someone else waiting. Can I ask one quick follow-up question?
There's no rush here. No rush at all.
Okay. Did you spend a lot of time promoting that work that you were doing, or did people just naturally find you? So you're putting stuff out because you hear a lot about 20% of content creation, 80% of promotion, or something along those lines. Did you just say, I'm passionate about this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to put it out in the world. If people find it, great. The things that stick, I'm going to keep doing. Or did you spend time doing promotion around those things to help get it some traction?
So this is where what I can do is I can describe to you how I've approached things. It's not necessarily what I would prescribe for you. I'm an incredible salesperson. I feel like I could sell just about anyone, anything. If I truly believe that it's in your best interest that you buy what I have, I believe I could sell anything to anyone. That's just a firm belief. I have an incredible gift for sales. I have an abhorrent hatred for marketing. Okay. Now I understand the power of my words, right? And so I am actually reinforcing my reality. But the thing is I've never loved this idea of marketing. This idea of I need to get out and get my message out. I need to create these sales funnels. I need to create this. If I get me in a dialogue one-on-one with you, tell me what it is that you want to do. I actually had a person who asked me, Cliff, do you think you could actually in a single coaching conversation convince me to never consume sugar for the rest of your life or for the rest of my life? And I'm like, absolutely, I can do that. But before you ask me to do that, I need you to go and spend the next 2 weeks convincing yourself that that's what you want. Because if you ask me to do it, you won't eat the stuff anymore.
Right.
So I need you to ask yourself, do you have any kids? Yeah. Okay. How old are your kids? 2 and 5 and 7. Okay. Let me ask you this. When your kids say, Daddy, why aren't you celebrating with us? Why won't you eat birthday cake? What is your answer going to be? When your wife wants to go out and celebrate, the next anniversary or the 30th or the 40th or the 50th anniversary, and her biggest dream is for the two of you to share the same dessert that you did on your first date, what are you going to say to her? Are you sure you want to not eat that? And so I say all of this. I have the gift of selling, but I share all of that to say this. I have done very little in the area of marketing. Every time I am some of my best friends in this world and my peers and my mentors are people who generate millions of dollars of revenue in their online businesses. They have hundreds of thousands of people on their mailing lists. And they do so because they are incredible marketers. I am very familiar with all of their tools. I have the skill and capability to do all of the sales funnels. Every minute I've ever invested on those feels like a part of my soul is dying. And I would much rather just create and be and have conversation and serve and let somebody else do the marketing for me. And I haven't even done that. Now, don't get me wrong. There have been a number of times I was like, okay, I just signed a $65,000 contract to host Free the Dream conference in 2018. And, my idea was that I would have 300 people in attendance with an average ticket price of $1,000. And my goal was to walk away with $240,000 in profit. Now, I did do some marketing for that. I showed up every day creating YouTube video content, and I was actually creating email newsletters. And even this is before AI, and I did not like to write. So I forced myself to do the things that would be a part. And I actually had email sales funnels, and you know what? They worked. They worked. I still did not market it to the place where it was a profitable event, but the 87 people who came the first year from 5 different countries, it was amazing. The 117 people who came the second year, it was amazing. Neither of those events were okay. You could say the P&L on Free the Dream 2000. I walked away with $6,000 in profit on the P&L. However, I was not filling my mastermind group. And so both years, net loss. So you're talking to a guy who has never really focused on marketing. And in spite of the fact that I've generated millions of dollars in revenue in my business, I've sold over $1 million of podcasting A to Z online course. I sold over $1 million worth of podcast equipment. I've sold hundreds of thousands of dollars of digital tutorials and so many other things. I've made over $1.5 million hosting paid mastermind groups. What I can tell you is all of that is in spite of the fact that I do the bare minimum of marketing. And the reason why I still have had that level of success has everything to do with what I started before. When somebody does discover me, and if think about the amount of attention, time, effort. You've got my full attention. Yes, Jeff has joined the Zoom call, and if he's willing to stick around and he wants to join me, he's going to be next up. But this conversation, there's no rush. If you need to, it's like, hey, Cliff, I'm ready to tap out, dude. You talk way too much. I'm going to let you go. But the thing is I'm here to serve. As far as I'm concerned, I'm here till 5:00 today. And if you had question after question after question, I'm still going to serve you. This is who I am. This is what I do. And it's that naturally has attracted all of the success to me. So what I'm saying is that's the description of who I am. I've done very little to market the things. I have a podcast called Upgrade Your Peer Group over at upgradeyourpeergroup.com. This is before ChatGPT. I was thinking about writing a book about everything that I've learned and experienced that I know about facilitating mastermind groups. I've facilitated a mastermind group every week since October 2010 with Pat Flynn, and that group still goes today. I did 7.5 years of 2 mastermind groups called the Next Level Mastermind that I generated over $1.5 million from. Back in 2010 to 2012, I hosted 5 groups with 10 people per group in what was known as the podcast mastermind back many years ago. So I have lots of experience. I wanted to write a book about it, and then I got bored of outlining it, and I said, why don't I just record a bunch of podcast episodes? So I think there's 5, 6, or 7 episodes over there at upgradeyourpeergroup.com. And I basically just put them out in all the podcast directories. I sent out maybe 2 emails to my mailing list. I mentioned the podcast in 3 or 4 episodes of other podcasts that I produce. I may have made 2 or 3 podcast or social media posts about it. And since then, I've not mentioned a word about that podcast anywhere. It's not even in the list of podcasts right now on my podcasts page on my website. Yet, that podcast still gets new subscribers every month. and people listen to all the episodes. And when they get to the end of the episode, they come over to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. And some of those people will become clients within the next 12 months.
And what you talk about, it resonates with me from a service perspective. And I think that's, one of the things I wanted to understand is how much are you doing of promotion versus just like this, where you're showing up and doing that service?
It's about 98% content, the least amount of promotion and marketing I can possibly do, simply because I can't be bothered with it.
And is there a reason you don't like marketing? I'm curious, like
well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
When you watch, have you ever watched a show on Hulu?
Yeah, I'm sure I have, for sure.
Okay, so you pay for a subscription to Hulu. And
yeah, I think it's bundled with our Disney Plus or something. Yeah, yep.
You pay for a subscription. And have you ever seen an ad come on before you start a show?
Yes.
Okay, how do you feel when that ad comes on?
I get angry because I'm paying money to not see ads.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you're on social media, do you ever browse through social media and you're looking to see what's going on in the lives of people, but you're hit with an ad every 3 or 4 posts?
Yes.
How do you feel about it?
Sometimes I'm okay with it. Sometimes it's like, oh, that was what I was looking for. That seems
Sometimes.
interesting. I click over it. And then, but the majority of the time it's probably that wasn't applicable to me and therefore I scroll past, or
Yep.
it's a necessary evil, I guess I would call it on the social media side.
Are you on LinkedIn?
I am. Yeah.
All right. Do you ever get any connection requests from people?
Every day.
All right. Do you ever approve people?
Yes.
Okay. And when you approve people, do you occasionally get an unsolicited, undesired message promoting their thing?
Yes. And those people don't get a response back from me.
Right. But forget about the fact that they don't get a response. But how do you feel about the fact that that showed up and you've just spent the last couple of seconds reading that message?
It more feels that it's disingenuous, right? Usually the note is like, hey, we're in the same environment or the same space, we should connect and whatever. And that seems great. That seems of service or expanding the network. And then it's usually not much even a personal message with some sort of canned response that tells me about their thing and why they're going to do whatever they're going to do for me or the company. That feels disingenuous to me.
Yeah. And so for me, I think if I look at all of the things that have been created in the world of social media, everything that has ever been ruined has been ruined by marketing. That's
sort of a Gary V. That's a Gary V take, right? Which is, I guess, marketers are the worst or whatever because they eventually ruin everything.
Well, I remember Twitter. Twitter used to ask this question, "What are you doing?" And any time during the day, all day, every day, people could just open up this little app, or they would actually text it in. Back in the day, it was only texts. And you would text, this is what I'm doing. I'm having lunch, or I'm doing a live stream. I'm getting ready to, clip my toenails. Whatever you want to say. It was anything you wanted. And what I loved about it is I could choose to follow certain people. And I'm genuinely interested in what's going on in this select group of people. And back in the day, I would log in and I would actually see a chronological timeline, a feed of every single post from every person I personally chose to follow. And I wouldn't miss anything because it would start where I left off. And it's like, this is amazing. I do not have that experience on any platform today.
Yeah.
None. It has been stripped away from me. I get algorithms, I get ads, and I get random things, suggested posts, all of this stuff, all because it is enticed to drip dopamine from people to keep you scrolling so they can insert more marketing messages. And I just don't like it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And by the way, I'm not saying that I won't market things. I do. I recognize there are some times when things will be marketed. It's just not what I desire. I have nothing against marketers. But I have 8,000 plus subscribers on YouTube. I think it shows publicly there's like over 600 videos. Actually unlisted, there are thousands of videos on YouTube. just by the basis, if I actually if I remade public all of my content that I no longer want people to know me for, I just don't want people to know me for podcasting stuff anymore. But I could actually go turn all of that stuff on, and given the number of views on some of those videos, I would be making several hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month. But do you know how many of those videos have ads turned on?
All of
Zero.
them?
Zero.
Oh, none of them.
Zero. Not one YouTube video of mine has ad monetization on. I have that's
Oh, I see. If you did turn on ad monetization, you'd be making money from it, is what you're saying.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I've never turned ad monetization on. There's been 3 different times I went in and clicked all videos, turn ads on. And there's this little, it's like, no,
Right.
no, don't do it, Cliff. You don't need that money. And it has I mean, some people could perceive this, and there's a version of me that could play what some people call devil's advocate, and I could talk about all the ways that this is actually harming me and keeping me from reaching people and all this other. It's just
it's not how you want to walk through the world. Basically,
it's not my desire of how I want to be in the world. I don't want anybody's first experience with me in a YouTube video being influenced in any way by a pre-roll ad that I have no idea what you just saw.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
It's just that in my mind is what I don't want. I don't want you to see a video. Maybe you know who I am. Maybe you like my content and you're subscribed to my YouTube channel and you see one of my thumbnails and it's amazing and it's a title it's like amazing. Maybe you even subscribe to my email and my email tells you about the incredible value and and it's like you just read my email, you're resonating deeply with me. We have a connection, a bond, and then let's talk about this man groomer thing to shave your crotch before you watch my video.
You're sort of pulled out or taken out of that experience at that point. Yeah, that makes sense.
I just don't like marketing. I just don't like it. That's all it is. And it just and so I don't do it. And I do market it. By the way, if anybody's listening to this, Free the Dream Workshop over at freethedreamworkshop.com. It's coming up on Friday and Saturday, August 29th and 30th here in Hebron, Kentucky. I'm just kidding.
Well, and I think that's the thing is probably you feel like people are here. They want to hear that message. It's not some random message. They're following you. They want to know that's what you are doing. Therefore, they want to know about what you are doing. And that is what you're involved in.
Yeah.
So that feels less whatever.
Yeah. And I would recommend that. I mean, if you have a limited resource of time, effort, and energy, and you're going through the process of creating content for a niche audience, and you also, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Why not optimize that and reach as many people as possible? And a couple of things that I could do is I could go to a couple of fellow podcasters and say, listen, I'd like to pay you to put a 30-second audio advertisement that I create into your show. Or I'd like to pay for you to say and speak about whatever I've got going on in your show. Yeah. That would be an incredible way to market myself. And if I did that, it would see massive amounts of new people coming to what it is that I'm marketing. I've never done that. Interestingly, though, if you go back to what I shared with you the first time, be someone or do things worth talking about, Michael Hyatt, his first 100 podcast episodes, I was mentioned by name with a link to my podcasting A to Z course in 67 of his first 100 podcast episodes.
Just because he wanted to tell people about it.
Absolutely. I never asked him to, never it just, and not to mention that every podcast episode was also a blog post, and he was one of the world's most popular blogs when it came to personal and professional development, and certainly in the space of online business.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you don't have to do the marketing. You can just show up, serve, and obviously you can see the success you've seen over the time. So
what I think, if there's a takeaway, I think it is possible if you have the right heart and you show up in the right way, and it's authentic and it resonates, and that it is possible that you can experience an incredible level of success without all the hype and without all the marketing.
Yeah.
And I would argue, even despite everything I've said, just imagine what you could do if you actually poured effective marketing as fuel on that flame. It would
Right.
be off the charts. And I recognize that I have chosen not to do it. It's just an intentional thing. And I have I don't recommend anyone do all of the effort that I've done and stop at the marketing side of it. And let me just share with you what I know is going through the minds of a handful of people who are very close to me, who they said, Cliff, you have no dude, you ooze marketing. It's so much a part of your being. And that is, if anything, I say that I don't do marketing, and what I mean by that is I don't spend a lot of time with sales funnels and pipelines and if this, then do this, and this,
Right. Right.
and because there's a lot of that stuff. I don't do any paid ads and things like that. I did try them for Free the Dream 2018 and 19, got minimal results and not worthy of my time, effort, and energy. But what I will say is there is a lot of just who I am naturally that, because of my sales bent and how I think there's a lot of organic, natural marketing that is actually built in within my content. So while I don't say, hey, if you like this episode, be sure to send an email link to a friend. I don't think I've, okay, out of 4,800 plus episodes, I may have said that statement 7 or 8 times. Yet, in all 4,800 episodes, just by simply being who I am, people felt compelled to go and send a link to that episode to somebody they know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more about that being a person worth talking about. That is it in my mind. It's I'm going to actually create a new term right here, right on the spot. That you're here live for this. Ready? It's unconscious marketing. I probably will tell you that my content is 100% content and about 65, 70% of unconscious marketing. I'm marketing without knowing that I'm marketing.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was going through my head is that like repeating those things like, hey, share, like, subscribe, whatever we hear all the time. We hear it literally on everything. And I never am compelled at that request to do it. It's like if the content was good, then I would share it. Kind of in my space. It's like if someone says dub anymore, it's like, I don't need you to tell me dub before the domain name. Like, I know how to get there. I can share it if I want, or I can add access if I want. It's probably very similar in terms of like, if the content's good enough, I will find a way to share it with somebody, right? I don't need to be reminded, and everyone sort of already knows it. They know the platform, how to do things, et cetera, at this point. So probably not even helpful, I guess.
Yeah, and the other thing that happens, especially in the podcast content world, interestingly, the number of people say, okay, if you really like our show and you'd like us to see us reach more people, the best thing you can do, they'll say, is to leave us a 5-star rating and review in Spotify
In the app you're following,
or the the Apple Podcast Directory or whatever app you just leave us a 5-star rating and review. Man, that'd be the greatest thing you can do. And again, out of 4,800 plus episodes, I've probably said something similar to that phrasing about 15 or 20 times. However, I know for I've never said it the best thing that you can do.
Right.
I have always said one thing you could do is this.
Yeah.
It's never the best thing.
Right.
The best thing anyone can do is to actually take this episode, whatever insight that you've gotten from it, integrate it into your own life, and have this episode be the catalyst for massive transformation in your life, such that 3 months, 6 months, 18 months down the road, they say, man, how did you accomplish that? Well, it all started when I listened to this podcast episode about 18 months ago from Cliff Ravenscraft's show. I'll go get a link to it and I'll email it to you.
Yeah. And that goes back to the serving portion, right? So if you're serving, you'll see those rewards come through later.
Potentially.
Yeah.
It's like the parable of the sower. You never know what
Yep.
seed will germinate, when it will germinate, and all that other stuff. But the
If you throw
parable
enough seed
works
on the
out.
ground, you're going to see something probably somewhere, right?
Exactly. So whereabouts in
Yeah.
Kentucky are you, by the way?
Outside of Louisville area.
Okay. So you're
Yeah.
only about an hour and a half from me.
Yep.
Shepherdsville area?
Yeah, like Pee Wee Valley, if you're familiar with that area.
I've
Just
seen the sign a handful of times.
just east of Prospect area, if you're familiar with that.
Gotcha. Cool. And what's
Yeah.
the business that you're CEO of?
So I've spent the last 25 years in hosting, and that's where we're starting out as a new hosting company. So there's
For
6 of us
websites?
for websites. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So shared VPS, WordPress hosting. So that's what myself and our folks have done for decades now. And so we've just now decided to do it for ourselves instead of for somebody else.
What's the name
so
of the company?
builtfast.com.
All right. So, and the URL is builtfast.com.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if anybody's out there and they're looking for a one button press WordPress install, I would
Yeah.
imagine, let me see here. So I've got some friends who are now hosting their own, is it N8N instances?
Yeah, like if you're using, you could use like a VPS and do your own you could host your own automation stuff like yes, 100%. You could use a VPS to do that.
By the way, did I say it correct? Is it called N8N?
It's a great question. I think it's N8N is it's like a Zapier or like competitor in that space. Yeah.
So for anybody listening, virtual VPS is a virtual private server. This is different than shared web hosting. But virtual private server gives you dedicated space and resources on a server. And if you get that, you typically are granted something like a cPanel, which is a control panel that is
We have a custom control panel, but very similar. Yep.
Yep. And so there's a control panel that makes it real simple for you to go in and install certain things. And many times those have standard packages. And WordPress is typically, I can't imagine a hosting company that doesn't have a WordPress WordPress install. But you can install things like WordPress. But today you can actually install your own versions of AI tools. So instead of actually paying a monthly fee for Claude Plus and GPT Plus and all the other Plus subscriptions, you can actually install your own version of AI large language models, and you can plug in via actually are they called API keys.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can use your own hosted install of something called N8N, and you can create all sorts of animations. And a handful of my friends are now obsessed with this. They're like, gosh, I used to pay like $180 a month for all of these subscriptions, and I'm now doing about 20 times the amount of queries that I was previously, and I'm paying about $25 a month for the API access. Yeah.
The same thing we're seeing too is like, if you're familiar with WordPress, like these new tools like Lovable or Bolts or any of those, you can also deploy those to like GitHub, which is a place you can store code, and then you can deploy it to ours as well. So you can use AI tools to build a website. And instead of having to push it up to like a cloud service that might be expensive or have variable stuff, you could push it to a service we have here. So the AI development stuff has been dramatic, I think, especially for people coming from WordPress, right? Where you have to learn a lot, and sometimes it's a little difficult to come out of speed. The new AI tools are really, really interesting.
Builtfast.com, if anybody's looking for a hosting provider that has a human at the top level of this that you could reach out to, and great Kentucky guy. So I'm going to tell people to go over and check you out there. So
thanks, Cliff. You didn't have to do that, but I super appreciate it. And if I can ever do anything for you, let me know too.
Well, let me just ask you, did you have a few more minutes?
Yeah, of course.
So I've got a couple questions for you. So first, you said you've been following me for a long time. Do you recall how that got started?
That's a good question. I think I a long time ago, I thought I wanted to do podcasting, and I went looking, and of course, your stuff at the time was all over the place. I think that's how I originally found you. And I think initially you had a gears page, like all the gear that you used and stuff. And so I used that to do some of the initial gear buys and stuff that I was playing around with. Um, and then I have followed you through your health journey and some of the stuff that has gone through there. I've also probably share closer to your original faith that you used for it, but I followed your faith journey as well through stuff, and I've just sort of kept in touch over. Or I can't say I listened to every episode or go through everything, but I've followed you for a long time, and I think just generally I like your spirit. I think you really do care, and and again maybe it's the marketing side. I don't feel like I'm always being sold when I'm having a conversation or listening to you when having a conversation. And I just appreciate your genuineness. This is not something I would typically do. I wouldn't just jump on and have this. And so I've listened to, I don't know, 3 or 4 of these where you're sharing. And I thought, oh, well, I've got an hour today. I'm gonna take a second to see if I can't jump on and have a conversation, take that opportunity. So
I love that. By the way, I'm going to eventually, there's 10 episodes before this conversation. Actually, maybe 11, because Jess might actually be before yours. I've been trying to keep these in chronological order that will be released as Cliff Ravenscraft Show episodes. Or you could just go out and watch the replay. I want you to go back and listen to everything you just said, and I want you to listen as if that was the answer to the question. If I were to start a brand today, a personal brand today, what could I do as a result of what I just told Cliff about how I first discovered him? What are the things that resonated with me? So you found a niche with podcasting. I knew what the most popular questions related to that niche, and I created resources available for free for people to find and share or whatever. So you found all of that. I created content that is consistently out there. I showed up in an authentic, genuine way that resonated with exactly who I most want to reach in the world, and have that kind spirit of service and whatever. Those are all the things that got you from when you first discovered me way back then, and you're still here today, so much that in spite of the fact you're not the type of person who would come across a live stream, jump into a Zoom call, and then come up and ask a question, but you're here, but it's because of all of that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I super appreciate that. And I think so just tell you, I'll take this. I think I'm going to go do some open office hours, post stuff, and just be available for folks that can answer questions. I love that idea.
Great. Then one of the things I want to strongly encourage you to do, I'm going to facetiously give you an assignment, not expecting you to actually follow through on this assignment. But yesterday was the 28th. So let me find out what last Monday was. Monday the 21st. If you can find the video from last Monday of my live stream, the replay, the whole I think it was a 93-minute video. All right.
I think I watched part of it, and no one came on during that whole. Yeah, and I literally had it in the background while I was doing stuff, because I wanted to jump on, but obviously there's other things going on.
Absolutely.
I just couldn't do it. But I literally just had it in the background running, thinking, how long is this going to go? Yeah.
Yeah, and if anything, watch the last just the last 4 minutes. Because I simply just staring into space, just in a form of meditation, and I didn't even say anything when I shut the live stream. It's like down. Now, did I do that for marketing, like an intentional marketing thing? No, I didn't. It's just it is so naturally a part of how I wanted to be in the moment.
Yeah.
But
and you're obviously showing up to help, and so if no one's there to be helped, that's okay. That wasn't why you showed up. You showed up to be helpful, and if somebody was there, so that's the thing for me. That resonates a ton. I think that resonates with our team as well, and I think I've taken a lot from this and how we can show up for some of those potential customers without expecting anything back from them in that regard.
Absolutely. Just imagine hosting a live stream, open office hours, ask me anything, and just having it up and running with a little blurb that says, I'm sitting here doing this, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say anything unless somebody joins me, and then drag and drop them up. I mean,
Yeah.
steal any idea you want from me. This
Yeah.
is awesome. I'm so glad, Paul, that you joined me. And if I can be of any further support or encouragement to you, reach out anytime.
Thanks, Cliff. I really appreciate it.
All right. Many blessings.
Have a great day.
You do the same. All right. That was fun. All right. We've got Jeff up next. Jeff, give me a thumbs up if you want to join. Awesome. All right. So let me pull Jeff up here, and give me a second, Jeff. I'm going to fix this crop here. So I will go to square. All right. And let's see. Jeff, I'll need you to unmute. Jeff, how may I be of service to you today?
So I have a question that I've been mulling over in my mind. And I know you're a person who I've heard talk about limiting beliefs. And I wanted to see on understanding, like, is a person who believes that their gifting and talents lend more, not like in a upfront role, but more kind of in a supportive role, does that put them in a limiting situation, or are they just embracing what they're on the earth to do? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does. It absolutely does. And I think that the only person that will know that is the individual who is asking the question. So I don't think anybody is going to, like, for example, if that happened to be you, Jeff, by the way, is this your question for yourself? Is this something that you have been pondering?
This is something I'm asking for me. Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to find out if I'm talking about a hypothetical situation, or
No.
you're actually wondering, am I limiting myself? Do I have beliefs that are limiting me because I perceive that I serve better as a behind the scenes kind of person, or a second in command, if you will, or an operational kind of guy, or fill in whatever verbiage that you're. And the phrase that comes to me, do you come from a faith background at all?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Is it the Christian faith?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So when was the last time you read the story about King David?
2 months ago.
Okay. 2 months ago.
Ish.
So tell me, who are I'm going to see if you can name in the story of David, going all the way back to when David and the giant, and then Saul's king, but anointed David, and all the other stuff. So you've just read all of that just a couple of months ago. Let's see if you can tell me the top 5 characters in that story, just off of the top of your head. How many can you name?
There's Samuel, the guy who anoints him. There's Saul, who's the king. There's his father that's in the story. I don't remember how many brothers he has, but there's brothers that are involved. Jonathan comes into depending on where you are in the story, you got Jonathan that's in there.
Okay, so I had suspected that you would be able to list Jonathan in the top 5. That's the whole reason why I asked you that question. So now I've asked you that question. I assumed that Jonathan would make it into the top 5. So can you explain to me who Jonathan is and what role did he play?
Jonathan is Saul's son, the king, and he becomes David's best friend.
Okay.
In David's role.
Exactly. And
really becomes an advisor and gives him counsel on when his dad is threatening to kill him.
All right. Awesome. And such a way that if it wasn't for Jonathan, David wouldn't have been crowned king. That could be argued.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't recall. It's been a long time since I read the story, but if it wasn't for Samuel coming along and anointing and saying that there's going to be a different lineage here and we're going to anoint King David is going to be the anointed king, Is it true? In my recollection, it's been a long time since I've studied that particular scripture, but wouldn't have Jonathan been king next?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I thought that was the case, and so I wanted to confirm that. And if that's the case, what does that communicate to you about your question?
And then it shouldn't be a limiting. I mean, it's not a limiting belief. Then, yeah, if you're embracing your calling, then it can't be a limiting belief, which is kind of where my thoughts were going. But sometimes you bounce things off yourself so many times you keep getting reverb back and forth on it.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And the way that it would be, and again, this is why I say this is only a question you can answer. Is it a limiting belief? And to see it, to perceive the belief that I feel called to show up in this world as a second in command, or to be an advisor to somebody else who is on the front line, or is getting all the recognition, or the lead person, or all the stuff. To be able to perceive that as a limiting belief, you have to have some sort of belief that you yourself is, and again, that the only true path to success is to be the main guy, to be the front seat person, to be the person in the driver's seat, to be the captain of the ship, to be the CEO of the organization, to be the front person of whatever.
Yeah.
You'd have to buy into that belief. You have to buy into the belief that everyone is supposed to start our own business, to be the owner of the company, to be the key decision maker. You'd have to buy into that belief to perceive being second in command is a limiting belief.
Okay. So then that's the work that I need to do then. Yeah.
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 And the great news is you get to choose whatever your beliefs are. So let me ask you this. What do you believe about somebody who is not in the driver's seat, or making all the decisions, or in front of the camera all the time, or whatever that verbiage is? What do you think about somebody who shows up every day to be that support role for whatever the leadership has as a vision to go implement?
They're the most important piece. They're the legs that hold the table together. I've been I was it started when I was listening to a CBS Sunday morning interview, and I can't even. The whole point of the interview is the actor he's an unknown named actor, but he's in everything. And I think he was in like Only Murders in the Building, and that's where I recognized him from, and those kind of shows. And he said his role was to be the parsley on the plate of the movie or the show that he was on. And that really, like, I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting way of looking at life. And then I started watching, we're watching The West Wing, and kind of being gravitated to the backroom guys, not the president or the chief of staff, the backroom guys that are kind of going back and forth. And it's like, oh wow, I'm starting to, like, I see these things. And then it's like, well, am I putting myself in a limiting belief by saying, oh no, that's my role, versus kind of what you hear in the world of, oh no, you got to be the front guy, you got to be the front guy, and hearing that from people in my life. They're like, oh no, in order to be successful, you have to be the front. And I was like, but I don't really believe that. I think that you could be the chair, the legs that hold the table up. You can be you can do those things and be just as successful.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this question. Do you think that it's a limiting belief that if somebody is not doesn't feel called to, and they have no desire to pursue the spotlight or the decision making and all eyes on me kind of role, do you think that's a limiting belief? And if they just decide to show up in this life to be the supportive role, feeling completely aligned, that, man, I love that my gifts, my talents are at great use, and I love attaching myself to a vision that I can buy into, that I want to be supportive and help bring to fulfillment. Is that a limiting belief?
No.
Then it's not a limiting belief.
Uh-huh.
Was that helpful for you?
Yeah, that was helpful for me.
Excellent.
That was my question in a nutshell.
I love that question. So it's so profound, and the reality is I think limiting beliefs only come up when there's something that you truly feel authentically called to create in this world. And nobody can tell you what that is other than you.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem we get into is most of the people that I run into, they have hired me because they say, Cliff, I have so many limiting beliefs that are keeping me from doing all of these things I should be doing. And as soon as they start using the words I should be doing, I already know that there's issues. And it's when they start bringing in, I should be doing this, but I'm not, I can tell you there's some sort of misalignment with who they're actually trying to be in this world. When there's this, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, they have in their mind some picture of who they should be or what they should be doing to be that is identified as success by other people, and they've agreed with that definition of success, and now they're trying to live in alignment with other people's definition of success that's not truly their own definition of success. And so what they're doing is they're trying to pursue something in this world that's out of alignment with what their own authentic self wants to create or wants to do. And so every time they go to do the things that are a part of the thing that they feel like they should want to do in the world, they want it, but they actually don't want it. And so when people say, Cliff, why can't I get myself to do this? I said, because you don't want to. No, I genuinely do. I want to make $1 million next year. I said, no, you don't. I've wanted to make $1 million every year for the last 5 years. No, you haven't. And and they're like, what do you mean? I can tell you it's been on my goal. I can show you my goal sheets. I've got my action items. I said, yeah. And have you made $1 million? No. Then you haven't wanted to. And that leads us into some pretty powerful discussions and uncovering why that is and why these things. And it's like, until you get clear about who you truly are and what is authentically aligned with who you most want to be in the world, then you won't be able to get yourself to do all of these things. And you can call them limiting beliefs. And here's an interesting thing that I've done, Jeff, is I've learned enough about psychology and the human psyche. And I've learned about people's ability to create an ego identity or a persona, a mask, if you will, in this world, where I'm the business owner, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is what success looks like. And I've been able to take people who want things, but haven't been able to do it. And I know enough about human psychology and neuro associations that I can actually help them reprogram who they believe they are. And I can actually associate more pain and pleasure, or more pain to not doing the things and more pleasure to doing the things than the opposite way. I can actually sit down in a conversation and I can help rewire the way people perceive certain activities. That will get the human being to actually go take actions. However, the issue is oftentimes these people go and spend so much time, effort, and energy, and they achieve the thing that they've been trying to do for so many years, only to realize that they're no happier. They have just as much stress as they did in the beginning. They have just as much anxiety. They have just as much worry and doubt. And most importantly, they have equally the same amount of unfulfillment, meaning that they are dissatisfied with life because they achieved something that wasn't authentically true to them. And so it's not just about limiting beliefs. And this is one of the reasons why over the last couple of years, I went and I said, you know what, I want to stop doing podcast technical coaching and consulting. I want to help people with their mindset and their limiting beliefs. And for the last 7.5 years, I did. And I've been incredibly successful at that. And then I realized, wow, you know what? This isn't people's greatest needs. I'm incredibly powerful at helping somebody who doesn't want to do something get out there and do it. I can do that. But only to discover that a lot of people want to do things that are not aligned with who they truly are, their authentic self, without all the conditioned expectations and thoughts and beliefs about what the world considers to be success. They haven't got clear about who am I? What do I truly believe? What are my values that haven't been inherited and just adopted unconsciously throughout my lifetime? What do I currently choose to believe is important to me? And then dealing with all the fear of being rejected by the inherited system. And that's the work that I've been doing today, is helping people just find out, hey, what does your gut say? What does your heart want to create? Who do you want to be? And if you think back, were you listening to the conversation I was just having before about marketing? I think it was with Scott, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. So with Scott, and the reality is I've been fighting this. I've been going in, and there's been so much pressure from society for Cliff Ravenscraft to scale his business up, to hire and delegate things out. I mean, there's countless book after book after book that says, Cliff, for you to truly be a successful business owner, these are the things you should have been doing over the last 8, 9, 10, 12 years of your life. These are the things that you should be doing forward. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I've gone down those paths. I started to get myself to take those actions. I was seeing results, and I felt more and more unaligned with who I am and how I want to be in the world. And every time I've went and done that, I'm not saying that I won't ever change my mind or perception or whatever, but I can tell you right now, for the last several years and currently in this state of where I am, I don't desire to be that marketer. I don't desire to be that scaled up person. I love showing up. I love having trust and faith. I love being of service, and I'm willing to test what is the path least taken, to see where it takes me, as long as it feels aligned. And there may be some pain and there may be some suffering along the way, but man, I know that every day I wake up, I'm doing what I want to do. I'm doing what feels right in my heart or my soul. And as I was talking to Scott, I'm literally hearing that voice in my head say, Cliff, that was a limiting belief. That you said you hate marketing, you hate this, you hate this. And I heard all of the voices. I'm literally in dialogue with Scott in that last conversation. And I heard the voice saying, Cliff, that's a limiting belief. That's a limiting belief. That's a limiting belief. It's only a limiting belief if I've bought in and agree that success equals scale.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that right now. Not for me personally. Success means living aligned with what I feel called to do and who I feel called to be and how I feel to be experienced when you come across me and or my content these days. And right now, transactional and marketing are two words that don't feel currently aligned with how I want to be. And so therefore, all of the things I said about marketing are not limiting beliefs. They are limiting beliefs from the perception of someone who believes to be successful is to scale. Those would definitely be limiting beliefs for that person. But do you see, going back to your original question, what could be a limiting belief to one person may not be a limiting belief to another?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you so much for coming up here today. How long have you been following my journey?
For a while. I don't remember. I found Michael Hyatt first,
Okay.
and then I found you through Michael Hyatt. Or yeah, I found Michael Hyatt, then I found you. And then, kind of like Scott, I kind of thought about doing a podcast thing, and heard the podcast stuff. And so then I started listening to you through that. Then I discovered you were a believer and like-minded, and I got more kind of interested in your stuff and followed you through all of that. I don't listen to everything all the time. I'm on the email news list, and that's how I found out about these. And I was like, oh, hey, I want to jump on and see. And see what was rattling around in my head. And so, yeah, I've followed you for I want to say at least I have things that I have saved from you going back to at least 10 years ago, like just snippets of things that I've grabbed that you've written in blog posts or written, and I just grab it and I like it and I throw it in a file that I save.
Nice. I love that. I'm curious, how much of those are technical and how much of them are more about the way you think?
More about the way you think.
I love that. I would have been happy with whatever you said, but that to me that's the thing. When I think about all the things that I've done, there's a lot of people who are originally drawn to me because of the technical things that I offered. But I always knew that my greatest value was in how I challenged the way people think and perceive
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah. And even, I mean, I think Scott said it too. I'm not the kind of person who would come on here and do something like this on a normal basis with just in a random person. But um, I, you're a voice that I trust, that I listen to in my ear, and I have conversations with you that not like this that you don't get to hear. But I'm like, wait, I don't know if I like that, and then I need to write it down. I need to think through it, and I need to process through it. But it started off with the technical stuff, and then it's as you've moved, I've been moving
Nice.
as well.
Well, I'm honored, and you're welcome to join me anytime you like. And I'm thrilled that you came here today, that you answered the call of the most recent email. And thank you, Jeff. Is there anything you want to promote? Anything you want to let people know that?
No.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Sweet. Is there
I'm not
anything else I can do to support or encourage you?
No. You're an encouragement.
Awesome.
I enjoy getting it. And so yeah.
All righty.
I came on one other time and I was not ready to. I wasn't ready to jump in, and
I
then today I was
understand.
all right, I'm ready to jump in today.
That's awesome. I love it. I've seen a bunch of people pop into the Zoom call and then they pop out for whatever reason. Sometimes it's just the timing. I'm spending a lot of time with one individual, and if you ever have something and you don't want to wait in line, I'm starting to put a schedule out. You can see over at cliffravenscraft.com/join. There's usually a schedule of the next several days. And if you ever see a date and time that works for you, just email me and say, "Hey, Cliff, I'd like to be the first person if nobody's already taken it in such and such session," and we can arrange that. Just email me, cliff@cliffravenscraft.com.
Sounds good.
All right, Jeff, many blessings. Thank you for coming across my path today, and thank you for coming up with that question. There's going to be a lot of people who will benefit from what was just shared.
Yeah.
All righty. That was fun and exciting. Let's see here. I was scheduled here to be here from 1 to 2:30. I've always said that if there are more people in queue, I would stay longer if I don't have anything else scheduled. I do not have anything else scheduled today. So I'm willing to be here as late as 5 p.m. Also, I'm willing to shut things down if nobody else joins me here. Real quickly, if you want to join me, go to cliffravenscraft.com/join. cliffravenscraft.com/join. You can do it from your desktop or your phone, and you will be able to join me live. David Trigg is here again today. He says, glad to be here. Thank you, David. J.R. Lawhern says, you guys have me thinking about doing the same thing. Start a new trend, office hours. I love it. It's a trend that has come and gone over the years with many people. So there's something powerful about it. So I love it. Real quickly, I'll just mention Free the Dream workshop just again. If anybody is tuning into these live streams, you kind of like the different various topics that are being discussed, you'd like to join an in-person event hosted by myself and my wife, Stephanie, where you can get away from the noise, the same routine that you're in every single day, break free and get into a new environment with other people who are daring to dream big dreams. If there's anything that you desire to be a part of your life that's not currently a part of your life, it's a dream of yours to be creating and or doing or being something different than how you currently show up in the world, I encourage you to come to the Free the Dream workshop, and you can learn more at freethedreamworkshop.com. freethedreamworkshop.com. It is a pay what you want event, and I absolutely mean that. There's no minimum price. You can choose any dollar amount. You could choose to come for free if you desire. And it's going to be hosted here in my hometown of Hebron, Kentucky, just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. It's in Northern Kentucky. If you've ever flown to the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport, that is the CVG Airport. The location that we're hosting this is only 3 miles from the Cincinnati Airport. So that gives you an idea of where we are for this event. It's going to be Friday and Saturday, August 29th and 30th. So it's 4 weeks from now. And we would love to have you attend. It's going to be limited to 50 attendees. 3 seats have already been secured. And I am well underway now of getting the momentum started to market this thing. How many people will be attending? Don't know. Could be 3 attendees, myself and Stephanie. So it might just be the 5 of us. And who knows, maybe you and or a friend or a spouse or whatever, you might be the 6th or 7th person at this entire event. We have no idea, but we are limiting it to no more than 50. And again, it is pay what you want. It is an opportunity for you to get clarity on some next steps for you to take to create whatever it is you want to create next in this world. And it is really an open format of, it could be anything. This isn't just for business owners, although business owners will be positively impacted by this workshop. You could be a stay-at-home mom and have a desire to do more and be more than the way that you're experiencing being a stay-at-home mom right now. And that doesn't mean go out and create things and get a job or do things and serve people. It could literally just say, you know what? I want to actually think about and experience my role as stay-at-home mom in a more powerful way than I currently think and experience it. And so it really, just come to Free the Dream workshop. It's going to be amazing. And so much of what the workshop will be determined upon who actually shows up and what questions are asked and what the goals and dreams are. Every single one of these workshops, and we're going to host multiple of them, they will all be different. We will have, the way that I'm envisioning this right now, I did Free the Dream conference years ago, and I am now doing this as a workshop instead of a conference because I want to have more intimate, small gatherings. But I will have presentations that are prepared ahead of time. They'll be queued up and ready to go. All of the sessions I gave at the Free the Dream conference in 2018 and 2019, they'll all be queued up and ready to go. And I may or may not include some or all of those sessions. I will also have an incredibly large amount of other presentations that I could pull from other workshops I've done over the years. And then I don't have the box at my arm's reach here, but I have a box that has laminated cards that I've made. And there's about 100 or more coaching tools, frameworks, strategies, and techniques that I've used with my coaching clients over the last 7.5 years. And I could pull out any one of those cards just at random and share it, and it would be applicable to everyone in the room, no matter what they've got going on. And it will be a significant shift in perception of what's possible. And so I just see myself potentially randomly pulling out a card, or the more than likely asking, hosting like a particular session. It's like, what's your biggest question right now? And taking a question from somebody and then saying, oh, I've got that. And without even needing to pull out the card, I'm thinking about bringing our giant whiteboard in. And so that I could actually just whiteboard things out and not have to have a presentation on demand for everything. It's all I can tell you is what's going to transpire. It will be a miracle. It'll be every single session will be miraculous in such that it speaks to the heart and soul and the parts of the mind that need to be spoken to in such a way that could not be designed in advance. And we did this in April of 2023. We had 3 attendees come to that live event, and it was phenomenal. What transpired there was absolutely phenomenal. I have no doubt that we would have sold a whole lot more tickets if I would have done the pay what you want model. But it doesn't matter. We're more about keeping this small and making sure that every person there is heard, felt, seen, and served. And yeah, that's what it is. freethedreamworkshop.com if you're interested. By the way, last call here. I could sit here for 2 more hours, but only if I have somebody to have a conversation with on Zoom. So if you want to join me, this is your invitation right now. I'll give you about 90 seconds to go to cliffravenscraft.com/join. cliffravenscraft.com/join. I will take the next person who jumps into the Zoom call, and we will have a conversation right here for as long as you desire. Or I'll wrap up this live stream. So with that, just wait to see. By the way, I happen to know there's about a minute delay, so I'll probably give it a little bit more than what I had said. It's 3:01 p.m. Eastern time on my clock here. I'll wait until it says about 3:03. If nobody has joined me by then I will consider the last call closed. I didn't check to see if anything was happening via LinkedIn. Since I'm waiting until 3:03 p.m., let's go over to LinkedIn and see if there was any comments that came in over there. So linkedin.com, Cliff Ravenscraft, and here is my live stream. No comments on the live stream. So there we go. It's 3:02, 60 seconds or less. All right. I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.